Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. Today is my last full day in Finland for the foreseeable future. I mean, definitely not forever, but I just don't know when I'm coming back. It's my morning tea time. I've really been having this big issue with waking up randomly at 5 o'clock because it's light out, and then I'm awake for like an hour freaking out, and then I go back to sleep until about 11. That used to be more of what would happen like earlier, and there's just been a lot of work right now, so my brain is super tired. I remember when I was in Armenia and my one friend, so like he has a kid now, and she's 2, and like, you know, oh, when she's not sleeping she gets to be in a bad mood, and then his friend is like, yeah, well, that's like adults too, and I'm like, no, it makes sense. So I feel like now I've been catching up on sleep a bit, so I'm feeling kind of better, but still really like, before I leave here today, I need to make sure that everything is exactly how I need it to be because it's stressing me out. And finishing laundry and all that fun stuff and just getting things put away. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to combine today talking about the original topic I had for today was that people don't really want to see you succeed. But then I started thinking more about, I saw a question yesterday which was talking about wealth inequality in the US versus Finland. And I was like, that's a great topic. I have so many opinions on this. And I thought maybe I'm going to try to combine them. So that's where I'm at today, because really this is something I do have a strong opinion about. So I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of rebuttals being like in the comments, but you know, not with that emoji, because I don't think there's one of those, is there? No, probably not. But I think it's a complicated issue. And I think that it's one that people do talk about, but people don't really have an understanding because it's very rare that I'm going to talk to another American about this issue. It happens because all the other Fulbrighters, like, we did have this discussion quite frequently, but people have different opinions, and I think that people can have opinions because people are hypocritical, right? Like, if you actually look up the the Wikipedia definition of hypocritical, it comes from some sort of Greek word, I think, about like, that denotes acting. So it's like when they used to have those like public spectacles. So there's this one quote by some other guy, and I don't remember the context of this one. It's like, we are all actors. So in some senses, people are always trying to, you know, to fit in with society, put on airs and like pretend that they care about things. You know, think about how much people care about being woke and politically correct these days, or completely the opposite, you know. So people are doing these sorts of things to try to get other people to accept them. So I find that a lot of times people will say something, but it's very contrary to what they actually do. And so this is why I always say, don't listen to what people say, watch what people do. Although I'd stand by talking is still part of your actions. So pay attention to that too, but it's not the whole picture. Okay. So people don't want to see you be successful. All right, this was something that a friend I had while living here said to me, and I think about this often. And what he had said more specifically was, you know, people act like they want to see you do well and they want to see you be successful. But once that actually happens to you, that's not what they want. And this goes back to the same thing I talked about yesterday, which is that people don't really know what they want. I'm very lucky that I don't have those weird parents who are jealous of me, but those parents do exist. A lot of times parents put pressure on their kids to try to reach their own hopes and dreams that they never realized. Yeah, okay, that makes sense in English. Sorry, I was like, that was a direct Russian translation, and I didn't know how that sounded. I think it's fine. Okay, but you know, that may happen where then the parents are jealous of the kids, and that's super messed up. I have heard of instances of this. I'm lucky that I don't have this, but it's been a thing. There was something very weird that my dad said recently that I thought was like kind of borderline this, where he was like, aren't you worried that your brothers will be jealous of you if you own a house before them? And I'm like, what? And I was like, I'm the oldest. Okay, that doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, one of the hard things about this is, all right, so I've seen different like motivational videos or clips, reels, whatever on this, where it's like, it's really cool to look at the end result and be like, that person has a Bugatti or whatever stupid thing. I think Bugattis are stupid, but whatever, like a nice house or something nice, right? Or nice vacations. Let's say, and that's not me. My vacations are really crappy, but whatever. This person is doing these things that are cool that I want. And then you look at them and you're like, you have to, like, in the back of your mind, ask yourself the question, is the sacrifice worth the outcome or the reward kind of thing? Because you're not thinking about how hard those people have to work, how much stress those people are under. I always said, like, the reason why I never wanted to become super wealthy was because the more you have, the more you have to worry about. Now, a lot of the financial advisor people or the financial YouTube people will warn a lot against lifestyle creep. So for those of you who don't know that, it's when you start earning more money and then you start spending more money as a result of you earning more money. And the way to actually amass wealth is that you start earning more money, but you don't need to increase your lifestyle. Because I started thinking about this for myself. Like, I'm probably just going to live in my dinky little apartments. The only reason I could see myself upsizing at any point would be if my family was growing and I had a dual income situation. But for myself, just worrying about myself, I don't see myself needing to go buy a house just because. I mean, I did say, oh, I'd like to have a house in Texas because I'd like to have more room. That would be cool. It would be really cool. But I'm probably not actually going to do that for a variety of reasons. Okay. So, yeah, because, in line with this, I was thinking more about, like, I can sense that, people are jealous of probably the lifestyle I've had, right? Like, people are into lifestyle and stuff. And nobody really stops to think about the toll that that's taken on, probably mental, to some extent physical, although I always say I have, like, abnormally weird genetics with being abnormally healthy for no particular reason. Like, I should be more unhealthy than I am based on how much stress I'm constantly under. And I mean, I eat okay, but it could be better. It used to be really good when I was younger. Then I just kind of I think I started experimenting and realizing that I didn't feel that much better or worse by just eating whatever I wanted. So I kind of started doing that. I just listen to my body. Yeah, the amount of sanity maybe I've sacrificed. Like, there are a lot of things that you have to sacrifice to be able to live, like, a very crazy lifestyle. That's why a lot of times when I see people on Instagram who are like digital nomad, okay, well, granted, that's kind of me, but like, who are like literally always traveling, or like there was one girl I saw where she went on a trip for 3 months straight. I was like, I'm not even jealous because that looks terrible. Like, it's cool, it's very cool, but I know that I wouldn't enjoy it. So you really have to ask yourself, like, would I enjoy that lifestyle of where I'm traveling every 3 months? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Like, you don't know because you didn't try it. Now, it's kind of the thing I also said yesterday where I'm like, oh, I always think like I'd like to be married, but how do I know that once I get married, that's actually what I want? And I think this comes down a lot to like marrying the right person. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and begrudge all my friends who have stayed in New Jersey or stayed wherever, well, mostly New Jersey, because my friends in New Jersey are actually my age, unlike my friends in Finland, who have successfully got married and been in relationships for years. Because as nice as that looks, I also know that there's a trade-off, because being in a relationship is a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment, it has a lot of pros and benefits, but it also comes with challenges. So I think it's just maybe the thing that I have a hard time understanding is that people really tend to only look at the good that other people have, and they don't think about all the challenges that the person really went through to get to have what they have. And I do see that, and it would be very easy for me to be like making snide remarks and being like, oh, well, at least you're married kind of thing, and make them feel bad that I'm not. But my question becomes, what is that accomplishing? So again, this is just going back to the people act like they want to see you succeed, but they really don't, because, humans naturally compare themselves, they're jealous, there's that whole thing. But I think it's more of like, what distinguishes you between an animal and a human is that you have the ability to control that, right? I think about my dog used to get really jealous of when I would hold my sister when she was a baby, and he would do some things that were kind of, not okay, but he's a dog, he's not a person. So, and my sister would do the same thing, but she's also a kid and her brain's not fully developed. So, they're fighting over my attention and they're getting jealous of each other. Yes, like, it happens. In this video, I had mentioned the one that was talking about stealth wealth. This was from Humphrey Yang. He's another one of the YouTubers that I watch, and I'll try to link this below if I remember. And yeah, like he's talking about, like that's a very natural thing, which is part of why having stealth wealth is important, because you never, because it can be actually like a liability if people know how much money you have, and then they're going to try to come steal your stuff, or you become a target. So yeah, there's all that. That's the thing I don't like about being in foreign countries, just the fact that you're American, you're a target because they think you have money. And it's like yes and no. The discussion I had with my one friend in Armenia, it's like about Russian people getting charged more in Armenia. I'm like, a lot of these people probably still have apartments in Russia that they're paying bills on, and they have a bunch of stuff over there they need to maintain, and then they're here on top of that, and then having to pay to live here. And he's like, yeah, but nobody thinks about that. I'm like, exactly, nobody think. Like, people don't think. Okay, I guess this is kind of what I'm getting at, is just people don't think. And this is where I'm going to go now with the inequality discussion, with the wealth disparity in the US versus Finland. So people don't stop to think that these are two entirely different systems that are nearly impossible to compare. When I've talked to my brother about it, he's like, do you understand how much easier it is to manage a population of 5.5 million than a population of 330 million? So we have to start with scale. It's a lot easier to keep a country where there aren't a ton of people running around making everything dirty and chaotic in line than it is to keep a country like the US where people are constantly trying to come in, especially illegally, and you're trying to manage all that. I don't even think it's that easy to be illegal in Finland. I think you can, but it would probably be so hard because you probably can't do anything because you don't have strong banking credentials, and without that, you're kind of screwed here. So there's all that. But the systems are just so entirely different, and the value systems are different of the people living in the countries. I will give the example of the thing that my host dad said to me when I first went to Kyrgyzstan, which was that America is a country of hardworking people because the people who immigrated there were ready to work hard. Yes, I mean, it makes sense. People had no idea what they were getting into. They were taking risks. That's why they say in finance, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. It also means could be the more money you lose. But, there's a lot of opportunities for wealth building in the US that just do not exist for you in Finland. That's why people are much more into entrepreneurship here as a means to gain wealth. I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think it is good for stimulating the economy. However, the number one issue that you have to consider when you talk about Finland, and this is something my dad told me growing up and I will never forget this, people are never going to work harder than they have to. People are inherently lazy, okay? People are trying to conserve energy for when they need it most. In Finland, you don't need a lot of energy to just survive here, okay? If you want to do nothing and you still want to have a place to live and food to eat, you can do that, and the government will let you do that. You cannot do that in the US. You will be out on the street. When people used to ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I used to say a hobo because I just didn't want to have to worry about these things. I already perceived like the stress of work and all of that stuff growing up, and Finland would have been a great place for that, and you only have to be a hobo. You just be a Kelo rat or whatever the heck it's called. I mean, that's how it translates. I don't know what it's actually called in Finnish. Isn't it like Kelo rato or something? I don't know. Whatever. All right, so that's the thing people do. So you're trying to incentivize people to work harder within a system where there's no incentive to work harder, and it doesn't really work. So one thing that I like, though, is like I explain this, I go to the grocery store and I don't feel bad for the person who's the cashier because I know that they still have a place to live and food to eat. I do not feel that way in the US. I don't know what kind of living situation that person has. I don't even understand how they afford to pay their rent based on how much they earn. And there are a lot of workers like that where you're just like, you hope they're still living at home with their parents because you have no idea how else they're going to survive. Here, everything is very geared towards independent living, studio apartments. Things are very affordable. So if you are just trying to like subsistence live, I think Finland is a great place to be. Now, when we talk about reaching potential and striving for something greater, this is where this becomes an issue in Finland because I feel that the opportunities are quite limited. So I think that there's great gender equality here, and that's something I appreciate a lot more than the US. I never really grew up being aware of the fact that I was a girl. What I mean by that is I never felt that because I was a girl, I couldn't do something. The only point at which this felt like it was becoming a thing was when my dad was like, you can't be an engineer. And some of that maybe makes me feel like I wonder if that was because I was a girl or was it just because he thought I was too dumb? Like, very honestly, it probably could be both. Because my brother's like, look, man, you're smart enough that if you wanted to be an engineer, you could have. Whereas my brother like is actually very smart, but then just isn't hardworking. So the US system is primarily going to benefit people who are hardworking. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily people who are smart. I think in Finland, maybe if anything, the smart people are benefiting because the job market's so competitive, and they talk a lot about how they don't care so much about accolades and your degree, they care about skills. Like probably one of the only people I know in Finland who like has a good job, who's also younger than me, does programming, and literally just like went to a company and was like, I can program, here's my portfolio, and they gave him a job. And that's pretty wild. Whereas in the US, there's a lot more of credentialing that goes on, and it's actually probably a little bit less about your skill set and just how hard you're willing to work. So that sounds very weird to explain, but yeah, I think in Finland, probably you're a little bit luckier if you just are naturally smart and gifted, versus in the US, it's all about hard work, because that is our value system, right? In Finland, the value system is not around hard work. It is around efficiency. It is around community, if you will, in the sense that people really want to work together, and that's, important to work together for the greater good and consider other people. But yeah, it's very hard to compare. And if I'm going to take myself as an example, I don't think I work hard necessarily just because I want to, but because I don't feel like I have another option. I feel like I'm kind of being pushed in that direction by a lot of different things within the US, aside from my own value system growing up there, by society, by parents, by friends and family. I'm the firstborn on all sides of the family, and I say all sides because I'm even like the oldest on my stepmom's side, even though I don't interact with them very much. But yeah, so like I think I have golden child syndrome technically. But the thing is, it's like, the moving out thing, like it feels like it's just like one crapshoot after another, man. I don't know. I mean, so when I think about the things that I enjoy traveling, right? It makes me happy. I enjoy connecting with people from other cultures. I've liked other cultures since I was 5 years old. Like my first two friends at school were not white. They were like Indian and Hispanic. So yeah, so I've always had this interest in like other parts of the world. And what does that require? Money for plane tickets, which is something I've been willing to work hard for my whole life. I'll go work at the restaurant and suffer there. Do I like working in the restaurant? I like interacting with customers. I hate interacting with my coworkers, if I'm going to be honest. Not all the time, but like the autism is definitely there, and everybody else there is very neurotypical, and it's very awkward. I probably only made 2 friends working at the restaurant over the last 10 years, and those are the ones who came to visit me here. And that was like after 10 years of me working there. Okay, so the whole thing that I guess I feel is if you work hard enough, you can have anything you want, and I think part of that's American value. I remember talking to one friend about this, and she's like, oh, well, that's an Andrew Tate philosophy, and I was like, yeah, that's misogyny, and we're not about that here. Anyway, whatever. So, part of it is like nobody's coming to save you in the US. Like you're actually going to live on the street. There are plenty of people who live on the street. And I don't like going to those places because I do feel bad. So I used to feel very strongly about, okay, I can't change the US system. So if I don't like it, I should just get out of it. But then, you have to think about yourself too. And then I remember having this discussion with another friend who I had here who was this Russian guy. And I was like, at some point, it's like I probably am going to go back to the US because I'm going to make more money there. And like, I need to make money. And he's like, oh, well, now you're falling victim to the whole capitalist mentality of, only caring about yourself. And I'm just like, this is more complicated, okay? I'm American. Nothing is going to change that, okay? I was born there. I was raised there. I've been indoctrinated by the culture, whether I like it or not. My whole family lives there. And I have a bachelor's degree from there. And I just felt like it did not make sense to not at least spend any of my career time working in the US. Does that mean I'm going to be in the US forever? Don't know. Probably not, knowing me. But it's still something that I was wanting to try out for a time. I looked forward to like, oh, I'm finally going to feel like I have money once I start working full time. It's like yes and no. The thing that I didn't realize was that I was going to be bombarded with more stress around the housing thing. And I also didn't realize how ingrained the whole American dream of owning something was to me, and how I was going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that that happened. These are things I did not expect to go through. Immediately after I graduated, I figured I'd be like all my other friends. Granted, all my other friends are like ethnic and, not white, and their parents are super okay with them staying at home until they get married or for the rest of their lives, whichever comes first, and I thought, they'll at least give me 3 years to like save up for a down payment. Nope, that didn't happen. They're helping me in other ways, so that's cool. Right now, my dad is harassing a bunch of mortgage lenders for this current situation. Geez, I want this to be done with so bad, I can't even explain. But yeah, I guess the thing is, it's just the US philosophy is a lot more like if you work hard enough, you can have anything you want. It's the American dream, right? Like you can immigrate to the US, you can get education, you can get a decent paying job, and you can have like a decent life. And people believe that, and I've seen that, and I agree with that. Now in Finland, that thing does not exist, because if you're an immigrant, you're screwed here over and over again, because like they don't like immigrants. Like, granted, I may be a little bit better off because I'm American. I'm a native English speaker. I probably could get a job here more easily than most, but it doesn't change the fact that it is actually, quite an issue. And that is one thing that people do consider when they're immigrating. I know I talked about the Russophobia thing, and then somebody was like, oh, well, no, I get it. Like, that's a long-standing history situation there. There's a lot of that kind of issue with Hispanic people in the U.S. because a lot of times Hispanic people are, hopping the border from Mexico and not necessarily having legal status, and that, unfortunately, represents a very large number of Hispanic people in the U.S. That's obviously changing now, but like people feel a certain kind of way about that. Personally, I feel no kind of way about that. Like, I can't even imagine some of the atrocities that people have seen and experienced living in some of those countries, especially the ones with extreme political and civil unrest like Venezuela. So, I have a lot of empathy for people who are willing to like risk everything to try to come to the US. So if they want to work and just have a chill life there, I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Because they're not paying taxes, they're not even making any money. Why do I care if they pay taxes? They're like not even in the system. They probably don't even go to the doctors. Like, that's my own feeling on that. I guess that is kind of a political opinion. No, to me, it's just more about like having empathy towards humans. Like, that's hard. Like in Spanish classes, like growing up, like when I was in high school in the U.S., it's like we talked about some of this stuff, like why it is that people immigrate to the U.S. Because you're talking about Hispanic culture in the U.S. So I think that's a complicated issue. The immigration thing, the minority thing, nothing's going to change the fact that I'm an American and I have an advantage in the American market for being American and growing up there. So there's all these things, and that's kind of why. I hate to be like, you have to worry about yourself, but this was something else I heard in a YouTube video, which was that, you shouldn't care too much about what other people think about you, because at the end of the day, most people are going to go back to worrying about their own selves, their own lives, and their own problems. So you caring or not caring about the social and political injustices, I hate to say it, it's not really going to change much. Like, are you running for office? Are you trying to change things? Some people are into political activism. That's cool if you're into that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going to change. So to me, it's just you need to pick what you can live with. And like for me, I've explained it's like I do have a little bit of guilt or feel some kind of way about like fully leaving my family and just like staying in Finland forever. Like I do feel a way about that, which is kind of why I double dip, and there are no legal reasons by which I cannot do this. So, that's what I do. People don't like it. It's not concrete. It's not binary. It's not a choice. It's a non-choice. It's a lack of commitment. And, to me, the only time that's an issue is if it affects another person, right? Like in a dating sense. But, if it just affects myself, whatever. So I don't know. It's like the U.S. is both amazing and terrible in different ways, because it is amazing that people can immigrate and like really build this amazing life full of success, material success and all that. But at the same time, the things that I don't like are that workaholism is so prevalent, that you are taught that focusing on yourself, I can't talk today, focusing on yourself and achieving things is much more important than caring about your neighbor. Like these are, and that's not even like my vibe or my value system. So these are things that I have to try very hard to not get sucked up in as somebody who is a very like overachieving American. But you know, there's only so much that you can worry about with other people when at the end of the day, you're just trying to give yourself a place to live and put food on the table. Like, yeah, I'm in a better situation than most people, don't get me wrong, but I cannot even explain the amount of stress that I've been experiencing for the since October 2023. How long is that? A year and a half? It's kind of exactly a year and a half. But the amount of anxiety that comes with, I don't know where I'm going to be living. I'm having a hard time making a decision. Nothing is within my budget. Like, it created a lot of stress. Do you really think that I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I feel bad about the fact that I'm earning however much more than the person in India or China working the same job? No, because I'm living in the US and that's where I was born and that's where my family is and that was the lot in life that I was dealt. Like, I don't, like, look at the way that humans behave, right? Like, people immigrate to countries where they feel like they have better opportunities. They're willing to put it all on the line to do that, even if they had an awesome life sometimes in their former country, because they're just looking for something better. So are you supposed to feel bad that you already have something better, or are you just supposed to accept it and to appreciate it? One time my aunt said to me that the way that you show appreciation for your privilege is by taking advantage of it. I don't know how I feel about that. I think in some ways it's true, right? Like, I have had the privilege and the opportunity to travel to different countries, to have nice interactions with people, to give people presents and all these different things. And, you know, I've appreciated that a lot. And I think people have appreciated my presence. And maybe that sounds kind of like narcissistic or whatever, but like, you know, is that what I was supposed to do with my privilege? I don't know, but I feel good about it because it made other people happy and it made me happy. So I think it's kind of like this whole, again, the zero-sum game fallacy kind of situation where it's like, just because I'm benefiting doesn't mean that everybody's losing. And I think that there's a lot to be learned and gained from watching the examples of people who are very successful and understanding that if you open yourself up to that, that's possible for you too. I don't think there's really a point in sitting around resenting people who have it better than you. I think it's okay to acknowledge you might be jealous and you might want the thing that they have, but I think it's equally as okay to realize that setting a goal to try to get that thing, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with wanting things and setting goals and working hard to achieve them. So I don't know. I mean, I'd say the biggest challenge that I personally see with like the lack of inequality in Finland is people are not motivated to work hard. And I think that this leads to a lot of depression issues because, and you know, this was with myself too. Like, I felt a lot more emotionally dysregulated living here. Like, you know, when I was here, even though, like, I'll be honest, I look back and it's like, I pine for those times so much because as much like sadness as I had, I also had so much happiness. Whereas now I just feel kind of chronically like flat, which is good, right? But life is full of highs and lows, and it's kind of like, how do you ride that wave? But, you know, I remember saying this to one of my friends before I left. I was like, if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't. And then the one guy's like, yeah, I wouldn't either. And I'm like, why don't people just admit that? Like, I mean, it's like, I do enjoy working, but like, I find other ways to work and be productive. Like, you know, I'll exercise a lot. Like, I've talked about what did I do when I wasn't working, like during COVID. Like, I exercised, I like volunteered more, I like talked. I was very social on Zoom. I spent more time with my dog, spent more time with my sister. I used to sell things on Facebook Marketplace. Like, that's another thing is I feel like in Finland, you just have to be really creative about how to earn more money, and you have to be very entrepreneurial. Like, you know, my toxic trait is that I love taking stuff people are throwing out and revitalizing it and selling it on Facebook Marketplace. Because why? It's going in the trash, and that's not good because landfills, and some of this stuff is like super nice. I remember I found like a rice cooker that was super nice. I'm trying to remember like what my best find was in Finland. Probably the rice cooker, which I gave to a friend, and I probably wouldn't use it anyway, but whatever. That was crazy. And then no, just like some nice stuff, really nice stuff. But yeah, like there are ways to kind of be more creative about how to be more entrepreneurial, but not everybody necessarily wants to take advantage of that. So yeah, but like I wouldn't work if I didn't have to, but at the same time, I felt like I had more mental problems when I wasn't focused on working and focusing on surviving. And it's like the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you can start getting into the self-actualization when all your basic needs are met. Mine are currently not, right? They will be soon, but they're not. It's not like I'm on the street, but just the uncertainty of it, right? And the lack of stability around, like, where am I living? But, going all the way up here, it's like, I feel like it's very rare that most people are going to get all the way up there because a lot of people can't seem to figure out all the emotional stuff in between. And that's a lot of what I see in Finland. It feels like people have a lot of, people are very lonely. People are very depressed. People feel very, like, disincentivized to, put themselves out there, really. And yeah, and I don't know where all this is coming from. And this is one of the biggest issues I think, like, Americans will talk about being in Finland, is they just feel like it's super hard to connect with local people. I kind of have this weird gift where it's very easy for me to connect with people, so it's a little bit hard for me to exactly relate to, but I did find that it was a lot easier for me to connect with and stay connected with other international people than with Finnish people. That was sort of the natural order of the universe, if you will. That was what kept happening. So I don't know, I keep saying, it depends on you. Like, for me, if I came here and I just took the Finnish classes and I was working on becoming fluent in Finnish and I had enough money, like, I would feel very, like, internally satisfied with that. It's just that, like, that's not the situation I'm in right now. Maybe one day it could be, but it's not. And okay, I don't know what else to say about it. So I don't know, like, you can feel whatever kind of way you want. You can feel whatever kind of way you want about whatever system is better. But I do believe at the end of the day, people are going to do what benefits themselves the most, because humans, it's not even that humans are inherently selfish. It's just, like, at the end of the day, humans are, like, trying to survive, and you're going to do what you need to survive. And you have different things you need to do to survive based on your circumstances. Like, if I just had parents giving me money and I didn't have to work like that, that would be cool, and I would probably do different things, but that wasn't not what I was dealt. I'm not really sure it's what I would have wanted to be dealt, because I don't know how that would have affected my self-worth. And yeah, because being given something is not the same as having to work very hard for it. So I don't know, pick your poison. That's all I have to say. As I always say, everything offers a different set of problems. Just pick your problems. Pick your set of problems. Pick what you want to suffer through, because it's all going to be different. Yep, so I kind of had to stop caring about feeling bad about the situation, because as my grandmother would say to me growing up, there's always going to be somebody who is more than you, somebody who is more beautiful than you, somebody who is more intelligent than you, somebody who has more money than you, somebody who has a better relationship than you, whatever positive thing that you wish you had, somebody else somewhere out there or at some point in history had it more than you. So doesn't matter, whatever, everything is relative. So I don't know. I mean, you can do what you want by supporting whatever country you want, by living in it, for example, if you want to, but that's up to you. Like, that's personal choice, and I don't believe people should be scrutinized for their decisions, but people like to have all sorts of opinions about that, because that's how politics works. Hashtag can't relate. All right, whatever. So now I gotta keep cleaning and stuff. All right, until next time. Bye.